Some of you have been on a very long journey, spiritually speaking, and you have reached a place of awareness, evolution, ascension within yourself, and certain explorations that you had made, certain modalities that you've explored, certain practices you've honed or that have like called to you, that have expanded or enriched your spiritual life in some way. You are now in a position to be a guide for others, to be a way shower for others. You may find at this kind of period of time and in the coming months, there are a lot of people that sort of seek you out for spiritual guidance. You may find that you start having conversations with people that ordinarily are very kind of materially minded or very focused on the mundane. And in your presence, these people start to kind of like talk about larger concepts, start to even sort of ask your opinion on things. If you've been on a journey up to this point and you felt very much like outcast because of that, misunderstood, kind of like the black sheep, you didn't have a whole lot of people maybe in your physical reality to kind of resonate with the things that you were drawn toward or you were exploring. Maybe you just had virtual community to connect with, or maybe no community at all. For some of you, or a lot of you even, could have been on a very solitary journey. You've kept this very private, very much to yourself. You are now entering a season where your energy field speaks to some degree of like authority that you have cultivated through experience, through curiosity, through trial and error, through the ability and willingness to kind of open your perceptions and open your mind beyond kind of the basis of whatever your sort of understanding of the meaning of life beyond the material was prior to this journey beginning, or the way in which your priorities were focused prior to, say, an awakening, versus how that changed after you started to explore maybe more spiritual concepts. You went on a healing journey, whatever that has kind of like looked like for you. You're now in a place where you don't have to sort of seek to find those kind of connections with other people, but it feels like you're going to be attracting in almost people you wouldn't imagine would be kind of like wanting your opinion about these things, or people that you might have been like dealing with, or you might have even known as like acquaintances that just sort of dismissed this aspect of who you are as like something they couldn't understand, something they didn't resonate with, or something they were very skeptical of. It's like these people are going to start to have experiences for themselves, and the first person they're going to think of, like, who would understand what's going on, who would resonate with what I'm going through, who would be able to kind of talk shop with me about these things, and it's you. In addition to kind of people that you may be more familiar with that weren't at a place in their own sort of journey of truly being able to kind of like understand or get very deep into certain topics, concepts, or discussions. It feels like there's going to be a whole new kind of category of individual that sort of is attracted to you, seeks you out, recognizes some sort of visionary or like wakeful energy within your vibe, within your auric field, maybe even in the way you dress, you present yourself. It's going to be something where, if you're, say, like waiting in a waiting room, like at the DMV, for example, you're going to have people coming up to you, and they're not just talking about the weather, they're talking about like deep things, not people opening up and sort of trauma dumping on you. For my empaths out there, where that may be something that is just kind of, it's part of the nature of being an empath, is we kind of draw the shadows or the heaviness out of other people without meaning to, like our light does that. But this is going to be people that actually have something intelligent to contribute. It's actually going to be people that have like thoughtful things to say, where it's going to be more kind of like deep or reciprocal exchanges, or even interesting kind of exchanges that it feels like are supposed to represent almost like a sign from spirit for you, that you didn't just go through that process of kind of like cultivating or enriching sort of your spiritual life, your spiritual self, your curiosity about sort of concepts outside of the ordinary, outside of pop culture, outside of what the mainstream or the masses are focusing on, just for that to be something that makes you like an outlier, or, considered weird, or something where it's hard for people to connect with that aspect of you, or you had to keep that very hidden. You are now entering a season, or rather it feels like the world around you, or the collective, around you, like the people around you, are entering a season of their reality, where what you've been vibing on, which you've been kind of immersing yourself in, which you've come to understand up to this point, it makes sense to these people. And this isn't a lot of energy where there's, kind of, you're in the role of the teacher, and then there's these students coming towards you and sort of, needing to glean knowledge, or necessarily fully looking towards you as like this person of authority. But it feels like it's going to be something where, even if it's people that maybe are newer into a spiritual path, or they have different sort of beliefs, or different practices, or they're gravitating towards different things, there's a level of like advancement within them enough to where it's almost like you're going to be feeling like you're dealing with equals in a certain way. Even with the people that are kind of curious, they're asking questions because maybe they're having certain experiences, their sights are set towards different things, their mind is geared toward different things. People maybe around you, some people having like spiritual awakenings and going through the process of kind of acclimating to that. It's going to come with the energy of like thoughtful questions, ways in which there's actual discussion that happens between you and others, sort of like, they're asking your opinion about things, bringing things up in conversation, but then it's almost like evidence or proof that they sort of like done their research, they've looked up things. They don't just come like empty-handed or with the energy of kind of questioning. So it feels like this is something that sort of your interactions with people in general are going to start to become more fulfilling, because you're going to be entering a season, or you're already like in the midst of it right now, where this isn't just kind of like surface level encounters. And for a lot of you, you may be frustrated, like, I really can't find anyone around me that I can connect with about things that interest me, or these deeper topics. Like, everyone's just focused on, kind of like celebrity culture, or what's on the news, or, kind of worried about their very immediate life. Like, nobody's thinking about deeper things. Nobody's talking about deeper things. Everybody's like distracted by other things. And you're going to see that that is not the case with everyone, that you've reached a place in your own sort of journey, almost where spirit knows like you need that exchange, or that connection sort of with like-minded individuals, or almost people that are having their sights set towards higher concepts, higher ways of living, higher kind of like planes of reality than just the here and now and what's happening minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. We also have the Diamond, Star, and Destiny. So for some of you, this process of just getting in like ordinary conversation, not like, you log on to some app and you're getting in a forum and you're reading comments and having, these exchange with strangers, or, quote, friends that you made on the internet. This is not that kind of thing. This is like face-to-face interactions. You're looking in the eye of another person. You are exchanging words. Your energies are exchanging. There are actual interactions taking place in the flesh, like in real time. All of this may be preparing some of you to step into the role of like a guide or a teacher. Maybe there are different practices that you have that you're supposed to, or you have the opportunity to, or this is almost like these things happening, or like spirit nudging you in the direction of finding ways in which you can make that sort of not just kind of the thing you do behind closed doors, or what you sort of fill your after hours time with. You're sort of looking at it from behind a computer screen, or like a phone screen rather. It's something where you're kind of just immersed but removed from like real human connection while you're engaged in these things, or researching these things, kind of practicing these things, like whatever that looks like. But there's almost a sense of kind of like laying down roots in order to build community, like on the ground, like boots on the ground. And you're one of those people. You're evolved enough, you're advanced enough, you've been sort of focused on this long enough, for however long you've been on your spiritual path. You've been questioning, you've been exploring, you've been kind of enriching that side of yourself. These sort of like face-to-face interactions, both with people that are in your like up close and personal reality, and like new people you'll meet, like random people, just strangers. Again, like crowded DMV waiting room, and you have a really kind of intense conversation with the person sitting next to you for 45 minutes, and then you never see that person again, but the moment is memorable. It's things like that that it feels like are kind of bringing your awareness to the opportunity that there's something more than just kind of the building of like a more up close and personal sense of community. For a lot of you, this may be something that is that kind of experience or that warm up that sort of leads to an aha moment of ways in which you can kind of make a business for yourself, make some kind of like gathering of community around you to have that sort of shared community space up close and personal, get people out from behind their phone screens, and gathering together face to face, warm bodies all in the same room, having these exchanges with one another. And it feels like for a lot of you, this is something where you'll be very inspired to kind of like make that happen. Like if you're not finding that around you, like it's been inaccessible to you on a direct level, this kind of experience, it feels like it's going to let you know there's going to be more interest in certain things than you were aware of or that existed when you first sort of embarked on your spiritual path. It may be that there's like a niche you are meant to fill or something that you could kind of create for yourself, like, hey, there's enough people around me that are expressing interest, or their mind is geared towards that, their perceptions are a little more open, the priorities are shifting, the focus is kind of widening and expanding. This would be a really good time to start to develop something where this doesn't just have to be like random conversations or things that take place in that sense, but this may really be a step forward towards something that could be a very fulfilling endeavor for you, or even just something that is kind of like, you do it on a volunteer basis. You do it as a hobby, you do it as an activity, you do it as a way to kind of create core community with other human beings in the physical world in real time. And we also have gateways of light, infinite. I have access, unlimited access to the divine mind. Yeah, so for a lot of you, this again is something that's going to get those wheels turning within your mind. Something in the nature of these interactions, maybe a very specific conversation that you have. Again, that example of like you're sitting in the DMV, you're waiting for your number to be called, and you start talking to the person next to you, or they start talking to you. It's very deep. Maybe it gets into kind of spiritual concepts and topics. An hour later, they go their own way, you go your own way. That concludes the interaction. But something that was discussed, something that that person said, their perspective on things, a thoughtful question that they asked, ways in which, you might have started sharing information, that feels to be something that is going to lead to like an aha moment, an epiphany, something that for a lot of you that may be experiencing like stagnation or dissatisfaction with other things you have going on in your life, maybe professionally, or even if you really like your job, you're really excited about like the life you've built for yourself, there could be a sense of like there's something missing, there should be something more. I perhaps should be doing something with my spare time other than kind of just, doom scrolling on the internet, or, spending all these hours on this particular app. Like this feels to be something that the time is sort of right, and it is nearing that place of rightness as well, where it will be very appropriate to start to kind of take those discussions, take those forums out of that sort of virtual space and into the physical reality. And this isn't just sort of like, you start a meetup, or, you put something out there and then like one person shows up, like you have a class, you have a course, you have a gathering, you have a get together, and it's like one person responds or nobody responds. This isn't that kind of thing. It feels like you may have kind of like word of mouth spreads, attendance starts, it like trickles in, but then it builds in some sort of way. For some of you, this may even be kind of like a movement towards wellness, revitalization of kind of the spiritual, pulse of your community, your environment, the region around you. There may even be other kind of like-minded individuals that kind of like hear about what it is you're doing, or that you encounter through this process. It feels like of having these conversations, getting those kind of words out there, getting those energies churning, and then it draws to you individuals that would also be kind of, having the resources, having the insight, having the interest in sort of gathering together, making that part of, what people do on the weekends, what people do on their off time, what people do in order to, kind of build like more of a well-rounded or conscious or like mindful way of living. And we also have the priestess, embody. Yeah, so for a lot of you, you are being called to like step up to lead in a very gentle way. There's a lot of experience or interests that you have that other people would find this to be very fascinating. Other people would resonate with this. Other people would kind of gain value of this. And it's almost sort of like, it's very easy, it feels like, to sort of create something, to organize something, to get kind of something out there, and you're gonna not have to sort of sit around and thinking, well, how do I start, what does that look like, where do I go next? It's almost like you're gonna get that signal that the time is right for that, because there'll be people kind of like coming up to you very randomly, and the nature of those exchanges has to do with these kind of like higher minded experiences, has to do with kind of higher vibrational exchanges. It has to do with more thoughtful or deep or meaningful conversations than just drama and surface level things and like the immediacy of the here and now. So you could definitely be in your like high priestess, high priest energy, sort of a leader of the people. And this is definitely a time, it feels like, for you to sort of look back on your spiritual practices to kind of get ahead of the curve of this phenomenon, this concept in some sort of way, and really start to ask yourself, what of the practices that I've had, what of the things that have been most influential, most meaningful, maybe even things that, were kind of like a community at one point in time and then it became virtual or it kind of disappeared. You might have even had mentors for certain things, or there were people that were, doing certain kind of like gatherings or organizing things, and then that came to a conclusion, it fell apart for various reasons. What is a way in which you can revitalize that? What is a way in which you can put your own kind of signature or spin on that? What is the way that like your precise energy, your precise relationship with spirit, with your own kind of like spiritual life, whatever that looks like for you, how can that be of value to other people more than you just kind of like put something out there within the vacuum of cyberspace, more than just kind of like I'm posting in these communities, or I go to kind of the usual places, or maybe you put things out there and it's just not like being received, it's not connecting with the right audience. It feels like for a lot of you, that audience, that community, it's closer than you would imagine. It involves like actual experiences with people in a 3D sense. Physically, you can get together, it's reasonable distance to travel, people very immediately around you, and it feels like that kind of gathering of these like-minded or kind of like energetic individuals, this is something that's going to be a very powerful and affirming experience for you as like a next step on your journey up to this point in time. That it wasn't just to kind of develop this side of yourself, but it was in a way to kind of be that sort of voice for others, so that comes out of a place of just sort of quiet reflection, private experience, or again, something with kind of the impersonal nature of a virtual connection between people. As wonderful as that is, it does not compare to, nor does it beat, face-to-face encounters. And so it feels like this is something where it'll be loud and clear for you that there's an opportunity to do that, or there's a lot more people that kind of have interest in who you are, what you have to say, your perspectives on things. And it feels like that's going to be really noticeable, especially with people that you've been up close and personal with, that up to now might not have understood some of these interests, some of these beliefs, some of these practices that are going to start to kind of like, they're not just generating interest just to be nice, or just to kind of like include you in some sort of way, but it's like genuinely they've had kind of like their mind has been expanded, their perceptions are expanding, they've maybe taken in other information, they've been inspired by other things, they now have something to contribute to the discussion that they didn't before, and they recognize and see you as an authority on something because you've come to this awareness long before they did, and of your own volition, like for very different reasons. But then it's also going to involve, like new people that you encounter, new people that come up to you that are just sort of, regardless of if they're able to kind of like read that or see you maybe as like woo woo or kind of spiritual, like you present that way physically where it should be pretty obvious, sort of like like attracts like, that kind of thing. It's going to be people that just sort of naturally in your presence open up about things like that. And it's going to clue you into the fact that whereas maybe previously you were feeling very frustrated, like, I can't really connect with others about this, nobody really cares, it's, not sort of etiquette to kind of discuss things like that. Even if you're sitting in the DMV and there's a long wait and you're chatting with the person next to you, you don't get into things like that. Like most people weren't like interested in that even a short time ago. That has all changed. That's going to be something that is changing. And it feels like it's something that is going to be a very welcome surprise for you. It's kind of a way to gather community, but unlike something where you just sort of are like, you're drawn to like an established community, it's like you're the person that is sort of establishing that. You're the one that is calling to others and gathering around you curious minds, inquisitive people, people that are energetically open, people that are on like an ascension journey, people that kind of resonate with that sort of higher frequency of awareness as compared to the types of community you've been able to gather to you, or you've been able to kind of include yourself in up to this point in time. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. Like or comment to claim these energies. Subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more content that I put out here. Don't forget to hit the bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. And if you would like to book a personal reading with me, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.